How's it going, everyone? Cuppa Anime Joe here, and as you have surmised, we have gathered here today to discuss and review the latest chapter of One Piece, 1191, titled Loki is Here. But before we get into it, please like and subscribe and hit that bell icon. I would greatly appreciate it. The chapter opens up with Luffy on the ground, writhing in pain, asking himself, how am I even still alive right now? This is crazy. After that beating, that thrashing that I took, what is happening? And he acknowledges something that I was thinking about a chapter or two ago. He has not fallen out of Gear 5th. He's still holding it, right? And he says, if I change back to normal, it's going to be real bad. So Luffy has acknowledged that, like, maybe he doesn't even have the energy left really to, like, restart his heart, right? Like when he fought Kaido. So he's recognizing that he needs to grit his teeth, right? And maintain Gear 5th for however much longer this battle goes on. Then he starts searching for Scopper Gabon, calling him old man and Gramps. And Scopper's on the ground. He's like, damn it, he got an arm. That attack took my arm with it. And Luffy finds him on the ground with a missing arm, and he's like, oh no, old man. And he apologizes to Scopper because Scopper had to take the attack for Luffy. And Scopper's like, don't be stupid, boy. I did not do it for a disappointment like you. So he's still, like, really pushing Luffy. We're gonna see later that he still recognizes, right, that Luffy is the one they were waiting for. But he also wants Luffy to really, like, step up and I think take this more seriously, which is contradictory to Gear 5th. And I'm very curious to see how those two are going to come together. And Scopper goes on to say, I'm fighting for Elbaf, which makes sense, right? His child's here, his wife's here. Everything with Luffy aside, this is a country that Scopper is going to fight for. And we have seen that ever since his confrontation with the Gods Knights earlier in the arc. He even admits that, like, I'm not letting Elbaf go down. There's no way, Straw Hat, there's no way I'm letting it end like this. And Luffy, Luffy does not look good. I'm trying to remember the last time he looked this messed up. But he asks Scopper, what is that guy? Like, what are we even facing? And while Scopper comments that his true nature seems to be a big secret, if I had to put it into one word, a single word, that man, he is God. And earlier in the fight, I believe when Emu was facing Loki, he's like, what's even the difference between a god and a devil, right? And obviously, like, as the supreme ruler of the world, Emu surely views himself as a godlike figure, whether or not, you know, he's equating his demonic powers and demonic form to just being that of a god, or if he actually views himself as a god in general. Emu certainly acts and sees himself like a godlike figure. And now we cut over to where Emu is. He releases a massive burst of Conqueror's Haki. Now, I've always wondered if Emu uses Maki in place of Haki, and so maybe this is a Maki equivalent burst of Conqueror's Haki. Or if Emu can straight up just use both, then he is definitively exhibiting Conqueror's Haki. The Black Lightning shoots out all around him. The animals of the underworld all pass out right away. And then we see another panel of him laying on the ground with the lightning exuding off of him. So in the earlier panel, we don't actually see that Emu is the one that it is coming from. But in the panel below it, we certainly do. It's coming from him. And he remarks that he is surprised that the Pirate King's crew is here trying to foil his plans on Elbaf. And he admits 'twas unforeseeable that those youths from God Valley would become such a nuisance. I ought to have dealt with them along with rocks back then. And there was a little while where I wondered if Emu's blob form was somehow disconnected or different from the demonic form that he's showing us right now here in Elbaf. And if, maybe there were signs that I missed that this wasn't the case, but if not, this is a pretty definitive sign to me that that's not the case, that it's all one individual, right? Because on God Valley, he possessed, I think it was Saturn. I think he possessed Saturn on God Valley, and then that's how he Domi reversied rocks and kind of augmented the God's Knights and helped the downfall of that country, of that island. He didn't use this demonic form there. None of them saw that. They just saw kind of like his blob form. So, because he's admitting that he should have just dealt with the Pirate King's crew back then in the same way as he dealt with Rox himself, not necessarily all of the Rox pirates, but Rox himself, really that connection shows us that Emu's the same individual. He has the same consciousness and memories across all of the forms that we have seen him take. And then he scowls, he got the narrow, kind of slanted eyes, and he leaps off of the mountain that he's on with a whoosh. And yeah, there's like Maki flames and like Conqueror's hockey, black lightning just flying off the ground from where he launched. So Emu's like really, really exuding maybe even more power here than we've seen before. And along with this, and this is probably why we see this additional power coming from him, he transforms again. He enters into like an even more crazy demonic form. You know what it kind of makes me think of? I'm going to be so honest here. It kind of makes me think of Luffy's gears. Like how he has his base form. Maybe what we saw before was base form Emu. And then Luffy has gear 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, which are like different stages of him transforming and accessing more powers. So what if this is like Emu's gear 2nd? That's a terrifying thought if he can transform more than just this way, and he's already just trouncing everyone here on Elbaf like this. But this next step to his demonic transformation really reminds me of Luffy's gears, and it would make sense if Emu's Devil's Fruit can scale in power in a similar fashion to the way that Luffy's Nika Fruit can. We've already seen them exhibit similarities to each other. In any case, he leaps off, most likely to return to the battle against Scopper and Luffy. But we cut away before that to the Owl Library. And here we have Chopper commenting like, thank goodness, the books are okay. O'Hara's history is safe. That is awesome, given that the library burned down. And Robin, with a beaming smile on her face, we love to see it, attributes that to Biblo. This is all thanks to Biblo. And now we see that Chopper being called here by Robin was actually Saul's idea. Saul's like, Chopper, listen, I am convinced that Biblo is trying to tell us something, but all we can hear are hoots. None of this makes sense. What is he trying to say? And while Chopper is like, I always thought that Biblo was the silent type. I'm surprised he's trying to talk to you. He's like, okay, all right, I'm listening. I've got the skills to pay the bills here. And then we as the readers, of course, we're not Chopper. We're like Robin and Saul. We can't talk to animals. So we just see Biblo hooting away. Hoot, 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 hoot. And all we get to go off of, I so desperately want to know what Biblo is saying here. All we get to go off of is Chopper's reaction. He's got his arms up in the air. He has like this shocked face, a little bit of maybe sweat coming down his forehead. And he's like, huh? I'm sorry, what? Biblo, what did you just say? So whatever he told Chopper, I also think it might be funny here if Chopper also can't understand Biblo, but I just don't see Oda doing that. I don't see him bringing Chopper here. I don't see him introducing this situation for Biblo to be the only animal that Chopper can't talk to. Like Chopper was talking to Ragnir, a mythical, magical squirrel hammer. So I'm fairly certain that Chopper's reaction here, his surprise, is directly related to the information that Biblo is giving him. And if I were to hazard a few guesses, I would say Biblo is either telling Chopper about Emu directly. Like, you know, like let's say Biblo was a Nakama of Joy Boy in the same way that Emmett was. He might be telling Chopper, like, here's what Emu is. Here's how he's doing what he's doing. Maybe these are the conditions your crew and your captain need to meet and Elbaf need to meet to drive him out or somewhat defeat him. Again, I don't see Emu getting fully defeated on this island. I see him being pushed out in some way. You know, whether that's like a definitive overpowering from Luffy, where he really does come into his own as a Pirate King warrior, or if Emu reaches some kind of time limit. I'm beginning to lean more towards it wanting to be more of an actual victory for the crew, but without Emu completely going down. So Biblo could be telling Chopper something about Emu. He could also be telling Chopper an important piece of history regarding Elbaf that might allow Chopper to figure out a clue towards how to defeat Emu. Or you know what? Another thing, this might be a video on its own now that I think about it, because there's so many different ideas to explore on what is Biblo telling Chopper. But maybe Biblo knows how Chopper is able to counteract or combat Domi Reversi. Like, what does Chopper himself possess that is a hard counter to Emu or some of Emu's abilities? And Biblo may even be delivering that information directly to him. In any case, we don't get any more of this during this chapter, so we're going to have to wait and see in subsequent chapters just what Biblo said to Chopper here. Now we come back to the fight. You see just crackling Conqueror's Haki everywhere. Scopper and Luffy are both in pain because they've both taken some blows now. And Emu comes up from the lower realm, punching a branch up above him. We just see Emu like flying into the air. Conqueror's Haki everywhere. Bam! And he's got Honibami in his other hand. And Scopper and Luffy are like, whoa. Bro, you look different. What did you do? Luffy actually says that later. And Emu, man, he looks so sick. He has giant, like, he has like giant black wings. I don't remember if he had wings before or not, but if he did, they weren't this big. I don't think his Omen, his Maki ring, isn't behind his back anymore. It's like around his waist, but it's expanded. Almost like he's wearing a skirt of Maki, but there's a gap there, right? Like it's expanded. And then he has two rings around his arms. Not quite his wrists, maybe more up here. I'm showing it. I might just put it on the screen. They're like covering his arms, which are now like even more demonic. And he still has Honibami with the little ghost things that can shoot out in his hand. And he is taunting Scopper to escape from Honibami with only an arm lost. How impressive. But don't get ahead of yourself here. This next attack will leave nothing behind. And Scopper, gotta love the Gabon. Man, he retorts right back. That's my line, Emu. You walking off my attack is a blow to my rep. And then he jokes, not that I've got the hands to applaud you, not anymore. I got a stump and a hand. And this is where Luffy mentions, is that him? He looks totally different. Like, he did not look like this when I started fighting him before. What is going on? And Scopper's like, listen up, Luffy. Listen up, Straw Hat. You have to get out of here. Get your crew, get everyone together, and just leave Elbaf. You can't stay here anymore. And of course, Luffy's not going to run. This is Monkey D. Luffy we're talking about. He doesn't run away. He's like, there's no way I'm doing that, old man. There's no way. You can make fun of me until you're blue in the face. There's no shot of me doing that. And Scopper does just that. You're barely better than a corpse at this point. You cannot help us out. And Luffy's like, well, I could say the same to you. Now, how are you going to fight like that with only one hand, right? And Emu he's got the scowl. He is so done. He's not having fun. He's flying in with Honibame. And Luffy's like, it looks like he's about to get up, but he flops on the ground and says it's no use. And we see Scopper charging his Conqueror's Haki, right, with his one arm and axe that he has left. And Luffy's telling him to run. And just in that moment, who do we get? It's not Zoro. It's not Sanji. It's not even Loki. We get Hajrudin coming in with a sneak, with a Gungnir, and I'm realizing, or Gungnir. Yeah, with a Gungnir. And I'm realizing that Emu either likes getting snuck, maybe he just doesn't believe in observation Haki. Bro has gotten snuck by Loki, by Luffy, and now by Hajrudin. And Hajrudin is feeling the weight of Emu, right? Like, he is pushing as hard as he can with his Gungnir, and Emu's face is getting squished. Like, he's taking the blow here, and Hajrudin like pushes through, flexes his giant arm, and Emu is preparing an attack with either Maki or with Honibame, and he gets sent flying by Hajrudin. But not before he sends those little Maki ghosts off in retaliation. So Emu is still getting an attack off even when he's getting snuck. And then he is sent flying back into the mountain, and we see him like, oh, maybe some blood on his face there. There's like a big hole in the wall. I say it's a mountain. It might be part of the tree, but whatever he got sent into, he made a big dent in it from Hajrudin's attack. Hajrudin sees Emu's counterattack coming, and he blocks it with his shield, but his shield is completely taken apart and like breaks into 3 or 4 pieces from that attack. And Hajrudin notes there's no taking that attack a second time. Like, I cannot get hit by that again. It took this shield out. And then he kneels down and he goes to Scopper. Yasan, how could this have happened? You've lost an arm. And Scopper thanks him for the assist, but he's like, listen, this guy's immortal. I just don't see any way of us winning, right? And this, I think, is going to be set. This is, to me, Scopper saying this is a setup for Monkey D. Luffy to find a way to win this fight. To, by the end, prove himself worthy and show Scopper something that Scopper himself even can't see. Right, so I think that setup's coming. I definitely think that Luffy is going to do something big here and find a way to win this fight. But Scopper right now is just thinking about how, like, regardless of the harsh words I have said to Luffy, he is the one we've been waiting for. We need him alive. We cannot let Emu kill him here. If he does, it's over. My captain's dream is over. So he tells Hajrudin, make sure Straw Hat Luffy gets out of here, alive and in one piece. And Hajrudin, Luffy's kind of like his captain, right? Hajrudin's part of the Grand Fleet. He's not directly on the crew, but he's an ally of the crew. And he's like, Straw Hat, you don't have to butt in. You got to get out of here. And Luffy's like, y'all need to can it. I'm not going to run. Even though Scopper's like, what are you going to do with those wounds? Luffy's like, y'all just don't get it. Running isn't an option here. And then Luffy looks serious. He's like, I'm gonna recover now. That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna recover and get back in this fight. And they're both like, that's nuts, bro. That's crazy. What are you thinking? And Luffy's like, y'all underestimate how much food I ate. Listen, I can make this happen. And Scopper's like, what kind of logic is that? You can't fight anymore. Scopper, this is how Luffy operates. He eats food, he powers up. That's the way that this works. And Luffy says, hey, it's a bomb. He's like puffing himself up. His cheeks are puffed. I don't know if he like blows the bomb away or if he blows him and Scopper over into Hajrudin's hand. It's one of those two. But in the next panel, Hajrudin gets hit in the back. He gets hit by these bombs and he's shielding Luffy and Scopper. And they're commenting like he's back. Like, Hajrudin, you punched him into the mountain, but it didn't last very long. He's back. And Scopper's like, Hajrudin, you have to fall back with Luffy, right? Like, live to fight another day. And Hajrudin, he is embodying the warrior spirit here. He is standing up, maybe in the way Harald wished he could have. And he's standing up to defend his country. Yasan, Elbaf won't bend the knee. A true warrior is always resolved to die in battle. And Scopper's like, you moron. You have to consider, right? What is the fallout of your death? And I love this scene right here because this is a definitive recollection, like the beginning steps or even like maybe closer to the ending steps of Hajrudin coming to trust Loki. Because Hajrudin, dead serious on his face, he says, it is okay if I die. And that is because Loki is here, right? Loki can continue our father's dream. Loki can become the king of Elbaf. If it's not me, I will trust my brother to do it, because he has now seen Loki putting everything on the line, just like he is now, to defend Elbaf. And Loki's running and he's like, well said, brother, but he doesn't actually get to finish saying brother. I don't know if Loki is just a tsundere and he stops himself, like he doesn't want to just outwardly say well said, brother, or if Hajrudin cuts him off in shock saying Loki. But in any case, he says, get ready. Hajrudin's got his axe in his hand. Loki's got Ragnar back, and they're prepping for an attack. Emu is shocked. I don't know if he's surprised to see Nidhogg back up, to see Loki back on his feet so soon. I don't know if he's finally using observation hockey because he's gotten snuck 3 times, but he's got a scowl. He's looking at the 3 of them. He's got the 2 exclamation marks above his forehead, and Luffy's like, this is it. This is the moment. He like puffs himself back up kind of into like a giant form, and he's like, I am also back on my feet. I'm joining this attack. And he throws his hands back for a gum, like maybe a bazooka. But then we have Loki swinging back Ragnar on one side. We have Hajrudin swinging back his axe that I wish had a name on the other side. And then Luffy kind of like in the upper center of both of them, readying his attack. And we get 3 generals. Goku sovereignty, and all 3 of them strike Emu in unison. It is so cool seeing Luffy being part of a sovereignty attack. I love it so much. We see Conqueror's Haki flying off from the attack. We know Loki has it. We know Luffy has it. I don't think Hajrudin has it yet, but that would be a great ability unlock for him in this fight if he also taps into Conqueror's Haki, just like we know Sanji will. And just like we know Zoro and even Sanji are going to master. It'd be great to see Hajrudin. I want Hajrudin to get stronger, guys. I really do. Will he close the gap between himself and Loki? Probably not. Because Loki is literally an ancient giant with the Nidhogg fruit, right? He is the pinnacle of giants. But if Hajrudin could get Haki mastery, including Conquerors, and maybe even some kind of legendary blade of his own, he'd be a force to be reckoned with. I'd love it if Hajrudin got stronger. And hopefully that happens in this fight. But yeah, we got the 3 of them, 3 generals, Goku sovereignty, break next week. But you know what? Oda's got to take his breaks. Whatever he needs to do to keep himself going and ideally healthy, if possible, until the end of One Piece, I have no problems with that. As for this tag team, I made a video about the possible tag team matchups against Emu, right? I always figured by the end it was going to be Luffy and Loki. That just has been set up from the start. That makes the most sense. I thought at some point there could have been a tag team with Hajrudin and Loki, though. right? And so now we're getting kind of all of that mixed together. We're getting Hajrudin, Loki, and Luffy, and maybe this is going to end up being a 3v1 against Emu. I'd love to see other Straw Hats come in too, like more group battles with some of the remaining crew who aren't occupied. Like we have Frankie and Jinbei, and Usopp still needs to do something big. Like, I don't think these three are going to take out Emu completely in whatever form that takes. But this might be the trio that lands the final blow, or maybe by the very end it's Luffy solo landing the final blow. We are just going to have to wait and see. And so I hope you enjoyed this. The first discussion video that came to mind for me is, what is Biblo saying to Chopper? So I think that might be what I plan next. But what are your thoughts? Is there anything I missed in this chapter? Is there anything you'd love to hear me talk about in a follow-up or just in general? Or do you have thoughts of your own that you want to share? I would love to hear all about it in the comments below. As I mentioned before, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps out small channels like mine. And with that, I would like each and every one of you to have an excellent rest of your day.